Hello, friends. Come in, come in, sit down. Take a deep breath. My name is Miss Carol. I am a former career teacher, now here with you, sharing everything that I've learned on my journey towards healing and growth, about radical acceptance and self-love so that I can cultivate more deep and meaningful relationships. And today I want to talk about something that we are all in the midst of right now, and that is addiction. And I recently just watched a Diary of a CEO podcast, Dr. K, I believe his name is, and I will link that podcast in the description if you're interested in looking. And his contention is that addiction is on the rise, all types of addiction. And though he is a doctor, I am not. I am not a counselor. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. I am not credentialed. These are just things that I have learned on my journey and picked up to help me to deepen the relationship that I have with myself. So I want to talk about addiction in a way that we probably often don't think of, and all the ways in which I feel like this is something that we all need to be more mindful of. So just a couple quick little stats on addiction. As I said, Dr. K said that addiction is only getting worse. Some sources claim that there is more traffic on porn sites than there is on Netflix and Twitter combined. 48.5 million Americans 12 or older have battled with a substance abuse in the past year. 70 million adults are believed to be addicted to food, and these are just a few stats, but addiction encompasses gambling, alcohol, prescriptions, digital media. There are all kinds of addictions out there, and this is not a judgment at all. This is not a judgment, because I come from a lineage of alcoholics. My great-grandparents were both alcoholics. They were incredibly violent and incredibly abusive. All the stories that my mother has told me about them. Violence to the point where people were having to make escapes out of bathroom windows. I mean, just atrocious alcoholic abuse. And I myself, though I was never officially diagnosed, definitely struggled with my relationship with food for many, many years. I can remember very distinctly, consciously thinking when I was in high school, I'm not going to eat all day. And then when I get home, if there's nothing to eat, I'll just continue not eating. But whenever I get the opportunity to eat again, I'm going to eat everything. And so this went on for many, many years. And then I would compulsively work out. So I would go long periods that I did not eat. And then I would purge. And then I would compulsively work out. And again, this is just habits that I noticed in myself. I was never diagnosed. I never sought any help, any outside help, which I probably needed at the height of my dysfunctional relationship. I definitely needed outside sources of help. But, addiction is a natural consequence of a society that has made financial gain its bottom line. Addiction is just a natural consequence of that, because one of the premises of capitalism is that you are not enough. You are not enough, and therefore you need this thing in order to fill whatever is lacking within you So that way you can be worthy, you can be valuable, you can be seen as this person holding whatever bag, or you can be seen as this person going into this exclusive restaurant, or you can be all of these things that actually have nothing to do with who you actually are. The clarity of your mind, the clarity of your consciousness, the integrity that exists within you. And I witnessed this for many, many years as someone who worked in the retail industry for a very big clothing brand. And ultimately, I knew that I needed to walk away because it just was so out of line with the character traits and the values that I hold dear to me. But addiction is a natural consequence of a overconsumption society, overconsumed society. And the reason why I started thinking about all of these, addiction and where the premise of this even came from, my mind is always working, is this book that I'm reading. This is my summer read right here. It's called The Good Lord Bird. It's a fascinating, fascinating book. And though it talks about leading the years leading up to the Civil War, it's funny, it's witty, it's smart. It doesn't take itself too serious, but then when it does get serious, it is very serious, and the lessons definitely resonate. But one of the themes, and even though I still have maybe about another 100 pages to read, one of the themes of the book was something that I read on page 274, if you're interested in looking it up. But I will surmise it by saying an enslaved person would rather run from a fight than fight against one. And what are you when you are an addict? You are enslaved to whatever form of addiction you have chosen. We're addicted to all kinds of things, but in our society, the thing that is crippling us the most is our enslavement to comfort. And that is no fault of our own. We inherited these minds and these genes from our ancestors from hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago to search for comfort, because that meant our survival. However, we are still using the same brains of our ancestors hundreds of years ago and attempting to apply them to the world that we live in today. And obviously there is a disconnect between the two. So if you're interested in reading this book, I would highly recommend it. It has been a phenomenal read. The one thing that we do not think of, and it might sound obvious when it comes to addiction, is that people who find themselves, and again, I am not a doctor, I cannot diagnose anyone, but what are we chasing when we are when we want to get quote unquote high? We are chasing feeling good. We want to feel good. I am the struggles that I've had with my eating habits, they are so insidious, because what do we do when we celebrate? We eat. What do we do when we get together for a birthday? We eat. What do we do for any type of occasion? Even a funeral is an occasion for us to get together and eat. And that's what made my relationship so insidious in my life, is because every occasion was an occasion for me to be confronted with this dysfunctional relationship that I had for such a long time with food. But when we think about it from the perspective of wanting to feel good, honestly, it really takes a lot of weight off of it, because it's like, when you're in a social situation, when you're at a party, you do want to have a drink. You do want to do something that's going to make you have fun and make you feel good. It's just about when you tip the scale in one direction, that's when things get dangerous. That's when things go off the rail, because there is feeling good and then there is out of control. And I think about people like Amy Winehouse. I think about people like Mac Miller. These are two artists that whose music deeply, deeply resonated with me, and unfortunately both passed on at a very young age. And I listen to their music, and sometimes it does make me cry because I still feel such an attachment to it. What could their life have been if only this thing that they were enslaved to was handled with care, and the people around them could support? Those answers could never have questions because the result is the result. But addicts, people who have quote unquote crossed over and gotten to the other side, have so much to teach us, because what you are demonstrating when you can overcome your addiction is that you have gotten to a place where you have surrendered to all of those things inside of you that we all have: the emotional and mental dysfunction, the unalignment with our consciousness. They have so much to teach us only when they get to the quote unquote of the other side. I think of people like Drew Barrymore, who unfortunately became addicted to alcohol when she was only 11 years old. Think about that. That is absolutely bonkers. Ray Charles started doing heroin early into his career and was able to go cold turkey and was able to live this full and wonderful life and die at a very older age. We look at addicts and we look at people who are quote unquote enslaved to whatever product or substance as less than. But I don't feel that is the case. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel good. There's actually something admirable in that. It should be treated with respect and reverence, that you are attempting to search for a way to feel good, to bring happiness to your life, because there are so many people who have just given up on happiness. They have literally given up on good feelings. So what have they become addicted to? Bitterness, resentment, pessimism, dread. We are all addicted in some way to something, because we are all under this umbrella of consumerism and capitalism. And again, and I've said it before in another video, I'm not quite sure which video I referred to it, but my grandparents, my grandparents, the same parents whose lineage was of those alcoholics, came to this country in the 60s during a very tumultuous time in New York City. And I'm very proud of them, and I stand here as a representation of them. There's no other country that I would rather be from than this country. Capitalism is not an inherently bad thing. It's just that when you are so far on one side, you have to have the balance of both. Look at nature. The next time you're out for a walk, do me this favor. You see a tree or you see a leaf, pick up the leaf and just look at it. Look at how it is designed to be symmetrical of one another. Look at it as literal two halves. Look at it down the center. It's literally a balance of one another. No more, no less. Just start to identify that symmetry that is a part of the natural order of life. Life is a game. Don't get it twisted. Life is a game. And the great thing about games? Games are meant to be won. Many, if not all. What game do you know? But even though it's a game, what game do you know that doesn't have challenges? Football, Monopoly, chess. All games have challenges. That's where the reward comes from. So we're not going to be able to win at life unless we are able to confront the challenges that are indicative of our winning. It is so simple. It is so simple. We have allowed ourselves to be clouded with the chaos in our minds and all of the stimulus that we are constantly bombarded with, to to negate these natural truths that exist everywhere in nature. Unfortunately, we have misunderstood what addiction and what enslavement actually represents. We cannot get rid of an addiction. We can only replace it. How we replace it and what ultimately we are all searching for is the deepening of our consciousness and being aligned with who we are. That is an extremely courageous thing to do in this world. Because again, this world needs you to be like everybody else so they know exactly how to treat you. So you can buy all the same things that everybody else buys. So there's no deviation. If you are struggling with an addiction, please seek help, seek support. I will link some resources in the description. And also, just two or three last things that I'll say. An addiction, and it doesn't make you a bad person. Healing and growth is about embracing yourself in a totality. We cannot run from who we are. That's why we have the same people, different archetypes of people come up in our lives over and over again. It's because we didn't get the opportunity to learn the lesson in 92. So it comes back in 02. Didn't get the lesson then, comes back in 2012, and on and on. Our lives are constantly giving us the information and the stimulus that we need in order to deepen our consciousness. It's just about us connecting the dots and being aware of where those blind spots are in our minds, in our hearts, in our integrity. Stop trying to stay at the mountaintop. When you get to a mountaintop, understand that it can't all happen at once. These things are so simple. Oh my. I grew up in Southern California, so I was exposed to beaches and deserts and mountains, and often my dad would take us on these adventures. And we would go into the mountains, we would go on these walks. And you never just magically got to the destination. You had to ascend a mountain. And once you got there, nobody was trying to stay there. Everybody was trying to make their way back down. But I think we get to a place in our healing of where we get comfortable and we don't see the value in going after that next challenge with the enthusiasm that we just handled the last one with. But any type of focus and attention that you can pay towards one journey, you can pay towards the other. You only need to do it one time. It is a journey. Do things that are going to make you feel challenged willingly. Open yourself up to the vulnerabilities that is life, because we are all vulnerable. We are vulnerable to each other. We are vulnerable to this collective society that we live in. And it doesn't take much. Say hello to a stranger. Have that conversation, that challenging conversation that you've been avoiding. Forgive that person that you've been holding on to so much resentment and so much bitterness towards. Whatever your experience, I would love to hear about it. Leave it, please, in the comments. If you feel called to, subscribe to the channel. I am attempting to grow this and create momentum so I can continue to make these kinds of videos that I feel are so necessary and so urgent right now. I will see you next time, my friends, and please watch this next video and seek the help should you need it.